If you have a WordPress site and you're starting to get traffic, things are going well, at some point in time, you're probably going to have your site crash or have some sort of hosting issue. I hope you do not have that happen, but even the best hosting packages out there, even the best hosting companies will have an outage. So there's a few things you could do to minimize the impact, and we're going to go over 5 things in this video to help minimize the impact or to help you, just get through the whole situation when your WordPress site has some issues. So let's get to it. I'm going to go over 5 things you should do when your website, your WordPress website crashes. About a year ago, I had a site that was getting, I don't remember, like 1,500 to 2,000 visitors per day. It was going pretty well, right? That's a good amount of traffic, and I was making a few $100s a day from that site, like every single day. So it was awesome, except at some point the site started crashing, right? So it wouldn't load. I was getting these notifications that my site was down, and I called up the hosting company to see what was going on. They kind of helped me a little bit. They checked to see that the site was down, which was good confirmation. They booted the server or something like that. They reset something, and then it worked again a little bit later that day. It kept happening over and over again, and I was stumped. So I really didn't know what to do. I asked around a little bit and no one could really help me. The hosting company said, hey, you should just make sure your site loads quickly, make sure you're not overloading your server, and just generic stuff. So they just sent me a guide to speed up my WordPress site. My site was already loading in 1 second, right? It was pretty fast, and I didn't know what the issue was, but it just kept crashing day after day. Well, eventually I changed hosting companies and I now use Siteground. I won't mention the other company that I had issues with, but I moved to Siteground. I'm an affiliate for them, by the way. I'll put a link below. In this video, I'm going to tell you about sort of the steps you should take really before your site crashes and then after your site crashes to, alleviate the issue. My name is Doug Cunnington. I talk about Amazon affiliate marketing, productivity, project management, and stuff like that. So if you're new to an niche site project, have a look around. If you like the videos, please consider subscribing. So the number one thing to do is have a backup of your site off of your server. So I'll explain a little bit more in a second. Now, when I first started working online in 2013, I saw that my hosting company had, free backup service, free daily backups. And I was like, great, I don't have to worry, right? Well, you do have to worry because most of the time those free backups that your hosting company does, they're in the same folder structure as your hosting account. They're on the same server, physically on the same drive, literally in the same folder, and it's just backing up your WordPress install. So if you make a little mistake, you can restore it and no harm done. But if there's some physical problem with the server, sometimes servers go down, sometimes data centers have issues. It's rare, but it does happen. I've known multiple people that that's happened to. And basically, if the physical, hard drive fails, your backup's gone, right? If it's in the same folder, if it's on the same server, your backup's gone. So it's super important to have site off server backups. I personally use Managed WP, and it's $2 a month for a single website, and they give you a lot of other capabilities. So check it out if you want sort of a managed service. I know that there are free plugins that you could install on your WordPress installation. It will back up your full install, including databases, and then you could link it up to Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever. But Managed WP, they handle everything. It's offsite using Dropbox, and fantastic service. Really a lot of capabilities there. So that's the number one thing. Make sure you have a backup, because if your site goes down, then you'll be able to restore it very easily. And by the way, Managed WP makes it super easy to do a restore. I'm much more, brave to make changes on my WordPress install, because I know I can restore the whole WordPress installation in a minute, right? I just have to click a button and it's back the way it was from the last 24 hours. So number one, offsite backups, really important. Going to number 2, this is when your website's down. So let's say that you realize your site's down, maybe you check it yourself, or maybe you get a notification or something like that, which I'll describe in a second. But let's say you realize and you think your website's down. It's really important to confirm that it's actually down. So I recommend, checking on another device. So if you are, using your laptop and you see that your site's down, check on your phone, use like a LTE connection or whatever your data connection is, or vice versa. Get your friend or spouse or partner to check somewhere else off-site as well. Basically want to double check to make sure it's not a caching issue or DNS or your specific connection for whatever reason. So just double check. Additionally, you can go to like some of the speed checking sites like Pingdom. So that's the one I use often. And you can, put your site in there. If they have trouble reaching it, then you'll know that your site's down. So it's really important. Confirm your site's down. And a sub note on this one is I use a couple things to check my uptime. So in WordPress, there's a plugin called Jetpack. It's a suite of tools and it's put out by Automatic, which is the parent company of WordPress. So I'm happy to use that one. It's free. There's a tool called Monitor, I believe, and it will send you an email if your site goes down. And if it stays down, they'll remind you, hey, your site's still down, it's not back up. Or if it comes back up, then they'll send you an email and say, hey, your site's back up, it was down for 10 minutes, something like that. So I recommend, use Jetpack or some other similar tool so you know when your site's down and you'll get an email notification. That way, you have some external source. I, don't go to my site every single day, or I don't go to my sites every single day to check if they're up. So definitely use some sort of monitoring plugin or application. Number 2, you've confirmed that your site is down. So what do you do next? Call the hosting company. That's usually my number 1 thing to do because they'll be able to, hopefully check the server. They'll be able to take a look at the, the overall, system and understand if there's some sort of outage. Occasionally, right, a company will have a server or a data center issue and there's not redundancy in place and there's a problem, right? It happens occasionally. So it's worthwhile to call the hosting company or hop on their chat support or whatever you need to do to open a ticket. And by the way, this is the reason why I switched hosting companies. Siteground has just fantastic customer support. If you hop on their chat, usually you're chatting with someone, like a real live person, within like 10 seconds or so. And it's not just a customer service like representative, it's an actual admin that can go log on to your server. They can, check to see if it's up. They can look at things and they know how to work on the command line and hop into WordPress and figure out what's going on. So it's really important to have a hosting company that has good customer support. Now, one thing that I'll mention is Siteground is probably more expensive than some other hosting companies, and you get what you pay for, all right? So most of the time, 99% of the time, your hosting works fine. Like most of the hosting companies probably are running on like AWS, the Amazon Web Services, and they don't even have the servers probably. I don't know if that's true, but the fact is it's pretty easy to have like a good hosting service, even if you don't, the hosting company doesn't physically like have access to those servers. But when you have an issue, it's really important that you could call someone up and they can actually help you right then. So the issue with my previous hosting company was I would call about a problem and they would have to open a ticket with the technical support before anyone could even check the server. So what that means is they were just going through a script to tell me to check certain things based on the symptoms of whatever problem I was having. It turned out that wasn't particularly helpful. Actually, it was not helpful at all because I kept having the problem over and over again. So I'm jumping around a little bit, but basically once you confirm that your site's down, call customer support, see what they can do for you. Sometimes it's an easy answer. Hey, they're replacing like a hard drive and it's going to be back up shortly, or our data center's on fire and everything's lost. We hope you had an offsite backup, but call the hosting company. They'll hopefully give you more information. So the third thing you want to look at when you're talking to the hosting company, you kind of want to figure out the root issue. So the first time that I had trouble with the site that I was telling you about, I called in, they reset the server or actually I'm not even sure what they did, but they did something and then the site started working again and it was fine. I didn't press them on, what the issue was. I asked, Was it something I did? Was there an issue that I created that you can tell me about? And they weren't able to answer that. I think I asked, was there a problem on the server? Maybe another site had lots of traffic and it bogged everyone else down. They weren't able to answer that either. Again, this was just a pure customer service person that I was working with. I didn't have access to the admin who actually like reset the server for me or whatever they did. So at that point, I really didn't know what the root cause was, but it's really important to figure out that root cause, because what happened to me was my site kept going down, 3-4 times a week for 2 weeks each day, right? I was losing like $400, $500 a day. Not cool, right? Just in general, not a cool thing to happen. And it was a problem that hit me pretty hard, and I was trying to figure out what to do. Again, this goes back to having solid customer support, so someone can actually investigate issues. They can look at the error logs on your server and other information to figure out what the problem is, what the root problem is, so that you could fix it and then not have the problem in the future. And this is sort of a sub point. I think we're at 4 or 5. I lost count here, but if you are having trouble figuring out the root cause, you may want to look at your traffic numbers. And this was an epiphany for me. And after I talked to some friends of mine who are WordPress developers, they confirmed my suspicion. So this particular site was one where I added a lot of content over time. In fact, I'll put a link in the description. I added like 200 articles over the course of like 5 months, and then added a lot of other articles beyond that too. And what happened, these were keyword golden ratio posts, which is a keyword research lingo. Again, I'll put a link in the description, but basically my traffic was growing in a very slow way, but significant. So my traffic was, I'm just gonna make up the numbers, say I was getting 1,000 visitors a day for a while. And each week my traffic would go up, for example, like 1% per week, which isn't a huge amount, but of course over 6 months or so, that's a lot of traffic. And when you fast forward beyond that period, sometimes I was getting several thousand visitors per day, which is a lot, of course. So I was getting a lot of traffic, and it happened very slowly. So I didn't realize it when I looked at my traffic graphs over the course of say 1 to 2 months. It looked pretty much flat. But when I zoomed out and I looked at 24 months, 2 years of traffic, I could see, oh wow, this is actually still growing, but it's growing so slow that in a monthly view, you just can't tell. So at that point, I was thinking, is my site getting so much traffic that it's like bogging down WordPress? And it turns out that is what was happening. So I moved to a bigger hosting account, a more expensive one. It costs maybe $100, $125 a month or so. And it was, had more memory, had more processors, all the good stuff. And it was fine after that. But the interesting thing with WordPress, and this is where my WordPress developer friends confirmed my theory, basically you hit some threshold, which it varies because of like the plugins you have on your site, probably the theme, the number of sites and domains that you're hosting on your account, and a number of other factors, right? There's some threshold where WordPress reaches a point where it just stops loading. So everything will be fine. I'm just making up numbers here, by the way. But let's say you get 1,450 visitors per day. Everything's fine. Your site's loading quickly. Everything's going great. And then you tick up to like 1,500 visitors per day. And then your site happens to crash often, and it's down for the peak hours of the day. When my site was down, I would go to it and it would take like 35 seconds to load. It would try to load, but nothing would happen. Other times it would have I think it was like a 500 level server error. So it was like a 503 or 500, some sort of error that didn't give you much information. So the point I'm trying to make is your traffic can be fine one day and then a little bit more the next, and it'll make your site crash and it'll be down 100%. It won't take like 10 seconds to load. It'll try to load and then it just never will load. And for some people, it looked like the site was completely down. For other people, it would load. So this period of time, my traffic was, really high for, a while, slowly ticking up each week. And then it dropped down to, from 2,000 visitors a day to like 100 visitors a day, and all my metrics went down. I was literally making like no sales. I think the 100 visitors a day that actually made it to the site, like maybe they never had the page load fully, right? Maybe it was just the analytics code that loaded. So a couple key things want to recap here. Number one, make sure you have off-site backup, because at that point, worst case scenario, you can get a new hosting account, restore your site, and once you update the DNS, within 72 hours, you should have a site that's loading just fine. All right, so offsite backup's really important. You could use a service like Managed WP, or you can handle it on your own with a free plugin. Totally up to you. $2 a month at the time I'm recording this for Management WP. Number two, have some sort of uptime monitor so that you get a notification via email or some other mechanism. You can get a text to your phone, whatever you want to do to know when your site's down. Number three, confirm your site's down when you think it's down. So have other people check, use other connections to see if your site's truly down. Number four, once it's down, call your hosting company and then like figure out if they can help you, right? If you have trouble getting good support from your hosting company, that sucks, I'm sorry. It's something everyone goes through. And then check out Siteground. Again, I'm an affiliate. I get a commission if you sign up with them, but customer service, solid. Last thing is figure out the root cause. If you have a good hosting company, they should be able to point you in the right direction and do a little investigation for you. And whatever you need, your hosting company should help you out. I mean, if you're paying them a reasonable amount, they should have the customer support, technical know-how to help you out. So those are my 5 tips, and I hope your sites don't go down, but having the contingency plans in place is super helpful to make sure if something does go wrong that you could fix it. And if you have a website, at some point you will have issues, so having that backup is just a really good idea. All right, thanks for watching. If you have tips for either backing up your site or what to do when your site crashes, let me know in the comments below. Really interested to hear about that. If you've had different experiences, also let me know too. So looking forward to reading your comments. And by the way, some of the best discussions, some of the best ideas are from your comments. So don't forget to read those and check them out. Thanks.